That's because if I had to leave tomorrow, I could get hundreds, if not thousands, of cuttings of plant material, take them with me. And elderberry grows so fast from cuttings, it would only take me 2 or 3 years to be back up and running full speed ahead. If you want to start a small permaculture nursery and you're renting a place that has a little bit of land, a small yard, or even just a driveway, in this video, I want to share with you some strategies that I've been using since I started selling plants specifically to sell about 5 years ago. And I also want to share some general thoughts I have about the mindset that you need to have to be successful while you're renting and how to deal with the realities that are true when you're renting and working on land that you don't own yourself. The first thing I want to discuss is mindset. Before you put even a single plant in the ground, you need to realize and truly understand that you may have to leave your plants and all the hard work that you have done on that property behind at a moment's notice. You are not always going to, or it's very highly unlikely that you're going to always have access to the plants that you have put so much energy into. No, that's because landlords, they own the property, the house, whatever. They could sell it and their priorities could change. um, any number of things can happen. And so when you're planning to start a nursery, you need to have that in mind. And so the different strategies that I have come to realize are really going to benefit me are to grow plants that are easily propagated and have systems in place to grow them that are portable and easy to tear down, put together, and cheap to establish. All right, well now this is all assuming that you actually have permission to do something on the property. And what I've come to realize is that you need to offer some sort of beneficial arrangement to have a landlord allow you to do this kind of work on their property. Um, Plants add an aesthetic nature to the land. They also, which could increase the property value. Um, they can benefit from the food that you produce if you're producing food plants. Um, could you offer them some sort of produce box during the growing season? It can't all be about you and you wanting to make money selling plants. Um, you need to offer them something in return. And with that, let's talk about the one of the primary strategies for that I am moving towards right now is growing plants that are easily propagated um, by cuttings of stems and roots. And that is because plants that grow that way are also they're usually pretty fast growers. Um, and so if I had to choose one, I would pick plants that grow from stem cuttings, like say elderberry here, also currants, raspberries, things like that. And that's because if I had to leave tomorrow, I could get hundreds, if not thousands, of cuttings of plant material, take them with me. And elderberry grows so fast from cuttings, it would only take me 2 or 3 years to be back up and running full speed ahead to where same place I am right now at a new place. Um, Not so much for currants. Might need a little bit longer time, but raspberries definitely. And so, but that's just something for you to think about. There is the plants that you're choosing to grow when you're at a rental property, how fast do they grow? And especially if you're like actually relying on money, which I'm not from my nursery, this is just a side business. Um, you want them to be able to grow quickly so you can get back up to speed uh, the fastest time possible. And you might be asking, well, that's great to get plants that are fast growing, but where am I going to plant them if I didn't even have a piece of land? What if all I have is a driveway? Well, what I have here is a dismantled version of what I'm about to talk to you about. I'm currently revamping it, but this is something called an air prune box. Now, this is a large one. Imagine this the size of a shoebox or even smaller. I've made one by one versions of these little air prune boxes. And what it is it's a raised garden bed that's elevated off the ground, and instead of the ground, and on the bottom of it is you're attaching in some way wire mesh, um, or grading of some type, so that um, all the soil that you put in, it stays in the bed, and when plants are in it, the roots come down and they get exposed to air because it's not in contact with the ground, it's elevated. That's why it's called air pruning. And what that does is it allows the plant's roots to get bushier, and this is more applicable to trees that grow long tap roots traditionally, like chestnuts and things, and hazelnuts and walnuts, and air prune boxes are great for those. Um, but this is also a strategy you could use to have a portable planting system, and you could place these on a tarp on a driveway. And in this box here, I could have 1,000 cuttings easy, if not, probably multiple thousands of cuttings in here easily. Um, and also, thinking about this, I'd mentioned nut trees. um, if all you're doing is selling seedlings, this works fine. Like maybe you have chestnut trees that are in your area, or you can buy bulk chestnut seeds from lots of different nurseries. Buy them by the pound, plant them out. You're gonna buy a pound of them for let's say $10, or maybe even if there's $20, that's a lot. You're going to sell each seedling for $8 to $10, and you may have 50 nuts or 20 nuts in a pound. Um, you can work out the math like that. It's all really highly variable, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say here. Um, so these air prune boxes, I'll make a better video on how to make a small one of these in the future, but um, this is a really great strategy for having a portable planting system. I could take this apart. Now you're gonna figure out a way to deal with the soil. That's why having smaller ones might be a better idea. Um, but this is it's a good option for you. The second strategy to really lean into when you're renting a place is heating tables or warming tables, like I have here. I only have one of these going right now, but it's a very simple setup. And this is uh, a two a 2 by 5 bed that I can fit approximately. It depends on how closely I could fit thousands of. I could at least fit 2,000 cuttings in this warming table here, and all of it is a frame that I built, and this can be on the ground. It doesn't have to be elevated like this. And there are heating mats or heating cables uh, being buried in my growing medium, which in this case is you want to use a well draining type of mix. In my case, I'm using sand, perlite, coconut coir, and a tiny little bit of native soil that I had from, like, I just had that around. I just want to add it. Your goal with these is that you're not actually growing out plants indefinitely in these types of setups. You're growing them to the point where they're starting to root, and then you're moving them elsewhere. Or um, I'm kind of pushing. this system to the edge where I'm actually allowing plants to like fully root in before I move them, because my goal with this system is there's not going to be a point where they're going in the ground on this property. They're going straight into the pot and into other people's yards that I sell these plants to. Um, so you got a frame, heating mat, soil, and all these cuttings here. Um, I just have some of this to retain humidity, and I have the plastic over top to keep the tops humid so they don't dry out. Another big part of this whole system is a temperature controller, just like this. You need to have a temperature controller. What this is it has a temperature probe that goes into the soil. You set the temperature for, in this case, anywhere between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be good for most things. If you don't have this, I've actually had just recently a heating cable melt, and actually it could have started a fire. It was actually a pretty dangerous situation because it was not plugged in to my thermostat. I made a mistake, and it could have been a really bad one. And so in here, I could start my elderberry cuttings, my currants, again, all those stem cuttings of branches of those fast growing trees. I can start in this mulberry cuttings, raspberries, all those types of things. It's a really amazingly simple setup here. Now imagine if this was, again, the size of a shoebox or the size of whatever small heating mat you get or heating cables. You could have this, you could have these lining a driveway or in a basement or something like that. And again, you're always going to have to find a way to deal with the soil afterwards because it has to grow into something. But you're just not like a whole yard of soil or anything like that.